Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we are going to be discussing last week's episode of Love in Paradise, but don't you worry, you will have the most recent episode of Love is Blind on Friday. Hopefully I don't have to be talking out my ass when I say this, but I will confirm we are going to have a guest on that episode. So I'm not going to tell you who it is yet, but I can confirm at least we've talked scheduling. We will be recording that on Thursday. I'm recording this on Tuesday, and I'll have that episode out to you on Friday. So before we get into the episode, it's been a minute since I've done any hot goss with you guys. So this is kind of more of a general thing. I don't actually have any information, but I am kind of piggybacking off of Cray Cray with this one. Because I do want to, number one, I was hard on Sophie in the last episode that we did. And I still have issue with how she's acting, but I do have to give her a little grace when I know she's been through a lot of hard shit in her life. She's still really young. I think I have to remind myself constantly that she is only 24 and she still has a lot of growing up to do. I think all of us did at that age. And she's in a marriage, and I still fully believe that neither party should have ever gotten married, and for different reasons. You know, Rob's an asshole and he's a narcissist. And then with Sophie, she is too young and still has her whole life to figure her life out, and getting into a marriage so soon in life is, as a person who's done it, I don't advise it. So I do have to give her some grace with that. I am still gonna firmly stick to, she does need to be nicer to him as well. She does have to care about his feelings as well, due to the fact if you're going to stay in a relationship with somebody, then there has to be some give there. If she said, fuck you, I'm out, then I'm with her on that too. But that's not what she's doing. So that's, or at least up until the last episode, that's not what she was doing. But with that in mind, like I said, I think we did get a window into, I think, Sophie's childhood, Sophie's life, with what has happened between her and Claire, which was earlier this month. So this trigger warning in general, if you don't want to hear any of this, it's going to be threats, dealing with threats, dealing with extortion, honestly, and also potential for sexual abuse of a minor. So if you need to fast forward, I would say maybe 5-ish minutes. I'll try to remember to do timestamps in the show notes to kind of do that, but I would say roughly about, say, 5 minutes. So starting now. So as I've mentioned already, Sophie had to call the police on her mom back on May 9th due to a threatening text message that Claire sent her, which it was noted that she said something around the lines of either I'm going to get an Uber or call me an Uber so I can come over there and slit your throat. It's a horrible thing to get just in general, but it's even worse when it's coming from your mother. So with that, I did find out a little more information. Again, I'm piggybacking off of Cray Cray here, that her mother was not only kind of being unreasonable with Sophie, but she was also being unreasonable with Kay, who is, as we should know by now, is Sophie's friend and roommate. And basically how this all transpired, how it led up to this. And I think we're starting to see a little bit of it now in the next episode that we see them in. I don't know if it's the beginning stages of this or what. But Claire apparently was staying with Sophie and Kay at Sophie's place for, I'm not sure if it was like a month or 3 months, but somewhat extended period of time. And Sophie had to end up kicking her out for whatever reason. And then her mother was threatening, well, not threatening, but wanting more money. Sophie had given her, I believe, $1,000. I might be wrong with the number, but definitely 1,000 and up. And Claire, I guess, wasn't happy with that number and she wanted more money. Sophie told her no. And then that's what led to the text messages. She apparently was also threatening Kay as well, which is really fucked up, due to the fact that Sophie wouldn't give her more money. Now, to me, hearing this, it sounds like addict behavior. That's not an excuse either way, but it does feel like addict behavior. It does feel like she is needing this money, not just for life, but for potentially a habit. I don't know. I don't want to put it out there, but that's just what it feels like. If it's not addict behavior and this is her sober, then it's Lord. So apparently, with that in mind, when Sophie said no to her, she then went ahead to extort her. I guess there might have been messages that transpired between them where Claire said that she was going to maybe post videos with Sophie and Rob that would probably not work well, and maybe even for either of them, more so Rob. And so this is a spoiler within the trigger. So if you don't want to hear this, fast forward about a minute or so. Rob and Sophie are not together. Rob is living in Los Angeles now, while Sophie is still back in Dallas. Dallas or Austin, where are they? Somewhere in Texas. That's where they are. And she's still there living with Kay. So there was a video, no, when they broke up, but there was a video that came out that Claire posted where you can see Rob is being an absolute dick. This is also spoiler over, but spoiler might come back again. I'll try my best to remind you. Where Rob is being a complete dick and saying things like, if any other N-word was dealing with you, they would beat your ass or something around those lines. Now, that's fucked up. That's fucked up. Fuck Rob. It's always been fuck Rob. Let me get that straight. It's always been fuck Rob. But fuck Rob, because that's a horrible thing to say to anybody. But even worse is to say that to your wife. And if you don't want to be with her, then don't be with her. Right? Now, the other thing too, though, that we need to kind of stress here is, I believe, okay, spoiler again, fast forward about 30 or so seconds. I believe that this happened a while back due to the fact that they are not together. Doesn't excuse it, but I don't think this has been a recent thing. I think this has happened, maybe it could have been before she permanently moved to the States. It could have been when she first came to the States, because we saw a lot of those videos on their first season where you kind of saw it was in a car, similarly to when we found out about the online cheating and all of that. So it kind of maybe is that same. I haven't seen the videos myself, but I'm assuming it's probably a similar thing like that. So the thought here, going back to Claire now, the thought here is that she potentially went and dug into her phone, went way, way, way back, because I'm assuming then that Sophie sent this to her mother, probably to show this is the fuck shit that he's doing, which I can now totally understand why Claire is like, fuck this guy. But I also think Claire is I'm gonna get my thoughts and feelings on Claire, but I think she is no better than Rob. I think she's maybe worse. But let me get through this. So I think Claire dug through her videos, said, here's something, even though, you know, back to the spoiler, I don't want to say it again. Even though that, with that in mind, she finds this video and posts it to make Rob look bad. But how does that make Rob look bad? No, sorry. Why? Let me back up. That's not what I meant to say. It makes Rob look bad. But why would you attempt to make Rob look bad if you're trying to extort your daughter for money? If anything, it's going to give Sophie more sympathy. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? I'm confused. But that doesn't matter because at the end of the day, this is bullshit behavior. And you don't do that to somebody. You then don't threaten her because she won't give you money. What makes her think that Sophie is in a position to fund her life or fund her habit? Potentially. Because again, we're being told, oh, they're rich, her family's rich. Is her mother cut off of anything? Because I'm curious about that. So it's absolute bullshit. But like I said, I don't think Sophie has a bad thing to say about Rob. You can argue it was a lapse in judgment on his part. That doesn't excuse his actions. In the words, I'm sorry, personally, if someone said that to me, I would be done. I would be out. He wouldn't have even a moment of my time past that point. I've never, ever had my life potentially threatened by the man that I'm supposed to sleep with at night. This is not, no. But Claire is no better, like I said. She's a horrible person. But the other part of it too that I want to stress here, because I do think this adds a layer onto the whole episode in the sex shop, is there's clearly sexual trauma for her right now too, that she hasn't dealt with. She's probably too scared to deal with. So I think it's easier said than done to say someone needs to go into therapy. I've obviously said it. I've always said I'm an advocate for therapy. Kay said it to her as well. But I think it's easier said than done when you're dealing with sexual trauma and childhood sexual trauma. I have people in my life who have dealt with childhood sexual trauma, and it's just not easy. You think you're doing good, right? But it's never easy to confront those because they are demons. And unless you confront them, so I have to give her grace with that, because I didn't know this, although I don't know why I never thought this before with the news of her mother being an addict. But Sophie potentially could have been sexually assaulted. I don't know how far that goes, so I don't want to use other words when I don't know the full capacity of this. But there is potential that Claire's boyfriends, who are scums of the earth, if they did this to her, were potentially taking advantage of Sophie. So it's like you hear that on top of everything else that Sophie mentioned in the first season. It's like all kind of makes sense. Why she's maybe not comfortable with her body in certain situations, why she maybe has these thoughts and feelings about Rob not maybe finding her sexually desirable, how she is so triggered with the online cheating, or him potentially fantasizing over just other women in general. It doesn't matter what type of women they are or whatever, but just other women in general, and how she perceives they don't look like her. It all kind of just makes sense. But again, I will say this part, and I think I'll close this out and just head into the episode. We'll do more fun topics in another episode. Hot goss topics, anyways, in another episode. But what I'm gonna say here is going to a sex shop isn't going to help your sex life if there are issues with sexual trauma. And I don't know how much Rob knows, if he knows anything, if there's anything to be said, I don't know. We obviously can see that probably the therapist doesn't know anything, even though like there's cameras there and it's not everything. You're not going to say everything in front of a camera crew. But even if there was an individual or even a couples therapy session with no cameras involved, she's not going to get into that in the first session. So, there's so much that's not being said, and she doesn't have to tell us. It's her business. It's her life. You can't get into everything, especially if like there's still issues with how she feels about certain things or whatever. But it's just not going to be fixed by going to a sex shop. Yeah, you can have fun and whatever, and sex can be fun. But when you're dealing with someone who has dealt with traumatic experiences, whether you were a child or a teenager or adult at any point, it's hard to separate those things um, and to feel safe with your partner. And just because he's your partner or she's your partner or whatever doesn't mean you're automatically comfortable with them. So I do have to remind myself of that. I'm going to try to remember that going forward. And again, I don't want it to seem that I am siding with Rob. I am not. I do think he has legitimate things only because they both decided they wanted to work on the marriage. That is it. If Sophie said, fuck you, Rob, I'm out, I would like, well, fuck Rob then. we will, we march at midnight. Like, you know what I mean? But it's just because I get triggered by things when you agree to try something. It's my own issue. You agree to start something, try to make something work. And then you don't actually do that, because doing that doesn't mean harping on the past. You don't forget the past, but doesn't mean harping on it. And, you gotta move on from it. That's what I'm getting at. But if like I said, due to the spoiler that I said I'm not going to say again, you're right at midnight. So with that too, Claire's an absolute monster. She did make bail. I also want to add that she does have restraining orders against her by Sophie. She's not allowed to be within, I think it's 500 feet or 500 something. Maybe 50, whatever number it is. She's not allowed to be within a certain amount of distance of Sophie. And obviously of her home. We don't know if Kay has something similar or what. But she is not allowed to be anywhere near her. Claire did make bond, as we know, but that I don't know who bailed her out, but she was bonded out. So there's that. We'll see what happens. I'll keep on top of the story as we kind of go along. I don't know what's going to happen even because, again, she's not a U.S. citizen. Can we just kick her out of the country? And then she's never allowed back in? And then Sophie can go accordingly. But again, I feel like Sophie is going to she already has a toxic relationship with a lot of the people in her life, and her mother included. And it's sad when you kind of hear her say, I'd rather be around my mom more so. I mean, I'd rather be around anybody besides Rob, but she'd rather be around her mother when her mother is nowhere near any better. And it just makes it a lot grosser when you see her interactions with her mother, because I think her mother definitely has an ulterior motive for her reasonings, even if her reasonings may be correct in hindsight, but it's just kind of gross. But that's basically that. I wanted to put that out there, with everything with that. And I will try to do better to make sure that I'm not shitting on Sophie too hard. Of course, I am going based on what I see in the episode, so it's frustrating. But again, I do just want to blanketly say, fuck Rob anyways. I don't like Rob. Just from the time I saw his smug face, I knew I was going to hate him. But I don't know how I'm going to go forward with Rob and Sophie just because of everything. It's not fun to cover people who have these outside things like this. Similarly, why we don't cover Ed or why we don't cover Angela. So we'll see kind of what goes forward. I do think this is a learning experience. This is TLC after all. So I'll see what we will do going forward. I think we're running out with them. I do believe we're going to be having them on Last Resort, as I've mentioned. So with obviously Last Resort, it's hard to not cover people, when they're in group settings and stuff like that. Well, obviously we saw with last season's, season, but we'll see how it's going forward. But what I will say this. If Rob ends up on Single Life, I will not cover him. That I can tell you. If Sophie ends up on it, I will cover her as long as her mother isn't there. Or if I have to skip an episode because her mom's a forefront or something, then I will not cover her mom. But that's kind of where we're at. Again, we don't know. That's the future. We don't know who we're going to get. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Rob on a Single Life season. So, but anyway, that is it. We've talked about 20 minutes now about this. Let's go into something just teeny tiny bit more fun. And that is Love in Paradise Season 4, Episode 5, A Wake-Up Call. So first, let's go into Luke and Madeleine. So Madeleine is just one big ball of sulk. Oh, sorry, sulk. Not suck. Geez, sulk. With respect to everything that she's been being told. You know, he's not staying in Colombia. He doesn't have money. And all this. And it's like, oh, well, there's going to be more. But he's leaving to go meet up with his really, really hot entrepreneur friend, who I can't remember if I ever got his name, but he's hot, whatever his name is. Oh, Brian, that's it. But when he says, okay, I'm leaving, the biggest eye roll. I'm serious. Her facial expressions are like at the level of what's his face from Bachelor. Well, technically Bachelorette. Oh, what was his name? It's Marshall's cousin. Justin? Is that his name? I think it's Justin. But yeah, it's like that. It's like Marshall and Justin. Because they both have facial expressions that we love. So yeah, so he's meeting up with Brian, like who's hot. Brian is also an entrepreneur. And he kind of understands Luke and his businesses. And I'm like, are you sure? Because, sir, your little medallion sunglasses situation, it's like, okay, sorry, they're ugly. Anyway, but, so we're kind of talking about Madeleine and how she's big mad. She deserves to be mad, mind you. I'm just making fun of the fact that he's making fun of the fact that she's mad, but she's big mad. And Brian's like, well, why is she mad? Oh, also, I want to put this connection in here too. Madeleine is friends with Brian's wife, who's a lucky girl. But she's best friends with his wife. And that's how Luke and Brian met. Brian is American as well. Need to mention. So, yeah, so why is she mad? You know? And he explains, you know, she's mad because of all the bullshit that I've put her through, basically. And Brian basically says to him, listen, why is she so focused on the money? Well, my guy, she needs to support herself, right? And if he's saying that he's going to support her, then I would too be worried about the money. I think we can all agree here. Much as I think, like, I did initially think she's a gold digger, I don't don't know. Between this episode and last episode, I'm like, or the most recent episode, I'm like, is she a gold digger? Or is she just, trying to make sure she can live? And here's this 30-year-old guy who's going to give her everything that she said she wants. And he said he'll give her, you know what I mean? Like, is it a gold digger situation, or is it like an Anfisa situation where Anfisa was told she would have this, this, and this, but we already knew that what's his fuck was just not going to give her those things. Instead, he was going to end up in prison. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to figure out, is she gold? And I'm not saying she a gold digger, but she ain't pizza. Like, I'm just trying to figure this out. So Brian basically says, listen, if you're going to get married to her, then you better get a bulletproof prenup. Prenup. You better get a bulletproof one. And it's like, so wait. So, okay. I hear him. Honestly, I think everyone should have a bulletproof, not bulletproof. I don't like that term, but you should have a prenup to protect each other's assets and whatever. I think that, prior to coming into the marriage, I definitely think everyone should do it. Even if you don't have shit, I still think you should. Just because, like, I know for me, like, I don't know, I never had that conversation with my boyfriend, but I just think for me, I mean, it was a different situation, I think, with my ex-husband, but I wish I did. But thank God he gave me no issues with anything. But I was considering doing a post-nup, which we call a different thing. We call ours or stuff a little differently, but I actually consider doing a post-nup, which we will talk about in HEA. I was considering doing a post-nup. He had no clue. But I think everybody should go in with a prenup, even if you are dirt broke or making sunglasses. I don't care. So he says, he might be broke, but what he does have is that one investment, which is an apartment that he also rents out to temporary rentals. So he's like, well, you know what? Because I do have that investment, I will do a prenup before getting married. And Brian says, well, if she loves you, then she'll do it. No problem. Right? Because there's never any problems when you bring up the word prenup. Now, here's my thing, Luke. Your ass never thought about doing a prenup before Brian told you to do one? You can't, and that's the thing too, when he brings this up to her, which we'll talk about in a minute, when he brings this up to her, he's like, well, Brian told me. Do you have no balls? Do your balls not hang low? Do they not touch the floor? Like, I'm so confused by him because I'm just like, guy, you couldn't figure this out for yourself. You had to have your buddy tell you should have a prenup. Like, but that's the thing too. The thing is, a prenuptial agreement has negative connotations to it because people think, oh, it's because you don't trust me. When it's not just about that. It's also about the fact, like, it will protect her too, as long as it's being properly discussed. You're going to a lawyer that has both of your interests at heart and is making sure that everything is being properly dealt with, like her business. He is an investor in the business, but you want to make sure that your business is protected and that he will potentially get his share, what is entitled to him from that business, but that it's not going to be jeopardized any further than that. It can also be to help her, but you need to make sure you have a lawyer involved. I'm just saying, like, didn't he think about doing this on when he just lost his job a month ago? Okay. You never thought about this before. He's an idiot. Anyways, so we're at this investment apartment now. And we see that he's kind of cleaning it up because another person's going to be coming in to do the temporary rental. And apparently we're going to be seeing her family real soon, right after being at the apartment. And she said, don't want to talk about money anymore. All we've been doing since you got here is talk about money. I don't want to talk about money anymore. I don't want to talk about it with my family. I just want us to have a good day. Can we have a good day? Because we haven't had a good day. You came in, we talked money, then we fucked. The next day, we went to a coffee place, we talked money, then I was mad at you. let's try not to do that this time. Can we try not to do that this time? That's all she's asking for. Mind you, she doesn't help that with what she ends up doing. So, yeah. So they go to, where they're heading to her grandmother's place. She says that she lived with her mom for the first 4 years of her life. Sorry, no. Back up, guys. Sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is about Luke. So we find out from Luke, because obviously her family's going to speak Spanish. We find out from Luke that thank God he's been learning more Spanish or picking up Spanish more. But his mom is actually Mexican. And the first 4 years of his life, they would actually speak Spanish, like solely speak Spanish. But then when he started going to school, which is typical, started going to school, so only start learn speaking English because, you know, obviously English is the main language. I'm not sure if Spanish is official language in the States at all, but it's obviously predominantly English speaking people. So because of this, they stopped speaking Spanish at all. They were solely English speaking household. So he ended up losing his Spanish. That's the problem. I mean, like, you make your kid potentially bilingual and then he loses everything. You know what I mean? It sucks. But anyways, he's kind of with speaking with her family, is kind of picking it back up again, having some memories. His Spanish isn't great. It's not bad. Like he seems to understand it pretty decently. Just kind of when he speaks, he sounds like Ashley. So it's like, you know, he'll get better, I'm sure. But anyways, so yeah, he's picking it up. It's obviously easier for everybody. You just translate to him back and forth, so it's great. So then we find out from her that with Madeleine, she doesn't know her dad. Her mom pretty much worked a lot. So due to her mom constantly working, obviously having to support herself and her daughter to whatever extent that was, she ended up living with her grandma. And her aunt basically kind of raised her like a mom. So we're making tamales. So Madeleine, in this instance, even though we were literally just not talking about money, and I guess her thinking that if I'm talking about the wedding planning, I'm not talking about money, but we're going to end up talking about money. Because she starts talking about the wedding plans and how, listen, the things she wants. She wants a piano. She wants a DJ. She wants a violinist. She wants 3 dresses. 3 dresses. And we'll get the details on why she wants 3 dresses in a minute. And she wants to have like the whole 9 yards. So I think it was her aunt that kind of asked, so when is the wedding? And Luke's like, not now. And what else is he supposed to say? Because we're not supposed to be talking about money and the fact that he's broke and that's the reason why they can't have this wedding. But even if, and she also said she wanted like carriage too, even if he had the money, the type of wedding she is describing sounds real expensive. So, like, I don't know. And he's like, I'm not supposed to be talking about money, so what do I do? And our family can tell that he's kind of evading the question, but the reason he's evading the question is because he's supposed to be evading money discussions. But the money discussions is the reason why he can't have this wedding right now. This is the thing. It's like, what the fuck do I do? And the thing that kind of upset me about him though in this moment is that, like, yes, on the one hand, I do understand that he's a little frustrated because he's thinking, you know, my financial situation, you know, I'm broke. So the fact that you're talking about the wedding is just minimally is going to give him anxiety because he knows he can't even give you that right now. But he's frustrated about that because he's like, well, what do I do? You know what I mean? Like, I can't do anything. So I understand that frustration. I understand her being excited about it because she wants to get married. She's 19, y'all, but like, she wants to get married. So I also understand from that perspective. But what I don't like about Luke in this moment is that he literally says, you know my financial situation. Basically, why are you talking about this? Grow up. grow up. She's 19, you motherfucker. You decided to have sex with a 17-year-old. Let's be real here, because she had to have been 17 when they started dating. There's no fucking way in hell that she wasn't. And you want to talk about grow up? Then date someone your age then, and then maybe she'll be a little better off in the age in the maturity department. I don't know what to tell you. The one thing that I will also give him here, though, with that in mind, is that he says, I feel like she's using her family to manipulate me. That's true. That for sure she was doing that. Maybe at the same time as being excited about the wedding, but it's clear that that's clearly what she's doing. It's just the whole grow up situation. It's like, well, then don't fuck a 17-year-old. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway. So kind of that with the family. But I guess it's the next day, she's really happy to be planning this wedding. And she's telling him, I want 3 dresses for each kind of thing for the wedding. She wants to have a dress for the ceremony, a dress for the reception, and another dress for the dancing. Can't you just get 2 and have the one dress be the reception and the dancing dress? You know what I mean? And she's like, I also want to have, she said she wanted everywhere. Flowers or something. I can't remember. Like everywhere. She wants a tall cake with the characters on it. She wants a DJ. She wants a choreographed dance. Okay. And he's like, I'm so confused because I don't have a job. I have a debt. And she's here talking about how she wants to have 3 dresses and flowers everywhere. And they're apparently going and looking at a venue right now. That makes sense. So they get to the venue. The venue's it's okay. And the person says, okay, so this venue costs $5,000 just for the venue. And Luke's like, so do we need anything else? Because $5,000 for just the venue is great. But that's just the fucking venue. That doesn't include catering, DJ, or orchestra, or band, no, sure, band if it's what you want. It doesn't include the cake. It doesn't include anything. It's just, and if you want a wedding planner who can make sure everything goes seamlessly, well, then there's also a cost for that. And he's like, okay, so how much is all of that stuff individually? Well, individually, it will be roughly, I think she said $2,000 to $3,000 each. So he's like, okay, so then that just brings the total cost to about $20,000. Sounds about right. And he's like, $20,000, poof, doesn't exist. Like, it did exist. You spent half of it on your sunglasses. But anyways, but even if it did exist, or when it did exist, he still can't put that towards a wedding. He's going to put it towards, he should have put it towards living. But what I will say here, like I'm giving him shit about that. Let's pretend he took that money out and was going to use the money for the wedding. Let's just pretend. Or he was going to use half of it for something. We're going to pretend. The fact that he used it on his sunglasses line instead of putting it towards his wedding shows his selfish attitude about everything. It's just about him. I have all these lottery tickets and I need to make sure one hits. That's all this is about. He's not even thinking about her and the fact that maybe she wants to have a wedding. If you took the fucking $20,000 and then moved your ass to Colombia, you could have done that. Oh, guess what, though? Here's a bit of hot goss. He apparently has a fucking book, this idiot. Anyways, so if people want to fucking gives a shit about your fucking life, anyways, it's just, it's selfish on his part. Anyways, so she loves it. Obviously, she loves the venue. And they kind of sit down and they talk. And he says, like, I don't have this money. And she's like, I know you don't have the money. I know you don't have the money. It's like, okay, but if you know he doesn't have the money, then why are we here looking at a venue anyway? And She's like, I don't want to talk about money. You're going to ruin this day again, just like you've ruined every other day. And it's like, okay, but you know he doesn't have the money. But anyway, and um he's like, well, I don't even know when I will have the money. And he's like, well, we know, of course not. We don't know what the future looks like, ma'am. And then this is the fucking opportunity that he sees fit to talk about said prenup at the okay, his timing for hard conversations suck. You don't tell her you're not moving while giving her a massage. You don't tell her while touring a venue that you want to do a prenup. His timing is bullshit. So he says, listen, I know I won't leave you, but I really don't know if you won't leave me. So have you heard about a prenup? And she's like, so wait, you don't trust me? And he's like, or I can't remember if she said this to him or if she said this in the moment. She said in the moment, and she's like, if I wanted him for money, obviously I wouldn't be with him. Well, hold on. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. If I do wonder, you didn't know until 2 days ago that he didn't have a job, right? I do wonder what her reaction would have been if he didn't wait to tell her, right? But at the same time, playing devil's advocate here, she's already in it. She has the business, she has the apartment, she has everything. She dumps him, then she has absolutely nothing. So it's, just playing devil's advocate though, that's all I'm just saying. I'm not saying she's a gold digger, but I'm just saying she may not necessarily want to be with a broke man. I'm not going to use the actual word Kanye uses, but that's all I'm saying. And then this is the part where he decides to say it's a great opportunity for him to say, well, see, Brian says I should do it. And she just gets up and walks away at this point. And I would have been like, I don't care what Brian has to say. If Brian in our relationship, if someone actually said that to me, that, well, so-and-so said this, I'd be like, so? I don't give a shit what so-and-so says. Actually, I have had that. I have had that in my marriage. Now, it was his mother, mind you. But again, at the end of the day, your mother can have an opinion. Your mother doesn't have a place in our relationship, though, or that's between me and you. So I don't give a shit what anyone has to say, because at the end of the day, it's my relationship. But that's what I'm trying to get at. Who cares what Brian has to say? Brian's not in this. It's on Brian's money on the line. You couldn't even come to that conclusion on your own. You had to have Brian tell you. Anyway, that's it for Luke and Madeleine. Let's move on. Do we have Alex and Alf? Yes, we do have Alex and Alf. But yeah, let's move on to Annie and Kyle real quick. And then we'll take a quick break because we've been doing this for almost an hour. So Annie's still really emotional about the whole situation. And she's like, I don't get clear answers from him. Well, no. He should want to sacrifice for me. But that's what, typically you'd want in any type of relationship. But he's never been in one. Not really. So he doesn't know. Plus, he's a narcissist. He doesn't care. It's got to be about Kyle, And he says, and he thinks, in a perfect world, she should just would accept him for what he does. Yeah, I should just accept that you stick your dick in another woman. I should just accept that. I don't care what the purpose is and why you're doing it, but I should just accept it. Okay, cool. But she goes back to talk to him. And she apologizes for acting up. And I'm thinking, but we know why you're acting up. And your reasonings are legitimate. But at the same time, if you aren't happy with him and his decisions, and he isn't willing to budge on said things, then you just leave him. Why stay with him? So yeah, she apologizes, but she's like, it just got to me. My feelings are getting deeper for you. I don't get it. But he says, maybe I can compromise. Maybe instead of, donating to everybody in that way, maybe you can have like a say in how, and on the people that Kyle, she's never going to agree to you donating in that way. What she wants you to do is stop sticking it in them. And like, okay, here's what I'm going to say. And again, I'm trying to be very careful with what I say. And again, thank you, Cray Cray, for everything. But Cray Cray actually mentioned in an episode, I think it was on their Patreon, so maybe not everyone would have access to this if they listen to Cray Cray, but they actually mentioned that there is a documentary that maybe I'll see if I can get access to, because I have some plans kind of coming down the pike with some things I want to add on to. I actually want to do a Patreon, but that's going to be it's going to be probably launched next year, but I'm already in the process. Maybe I'll watch this documentary and we can talk about it. We'll see, but I'll add it to the list and see what I feel. But there is a documentary I believe it's called Sperm World, that Kyle's actually featured in, and he admits, I believe, don't quote me, I'm quoting Cray Cray, who I think is quoting the documentary. If the reason, apparently, loosely quoted in the documentary, is that the reason that he just started doing this in the first place is so he can get laid, which is on the one hand gross. On the other hand, well, that makes sense. Actually, I'm actually, that makes more sense. That does. But now if you have a girlfriend, Kyle, why do you need then to continue donating in that way? Because you then would be getting laid. You know what I mean? Maybe not regularly because you don't live in the same country, but you would be getting laid. Would that then shift? Would that not matter to him? Does he want to have all the access to all the women whenever? Like, I'm just trying to understand, like, why would he need to continue this if he's with her? And you know what I mean? But is it about having kids? Is it about the sex? I just trying to understand. The fact that he donates in this way is not about having women become parents. It's about his dick and what. Anyway, so he says he just doesn't want to not donate at all. The fact of thinking that he wouldn't donate at all would give him hives, I guess. And she says, I don't want to cry in front of him, but I do understand why, women have issues crying in front of men. I've been the same way. I've been that way too. But she's like, she just doesn't want him doing that. And I totally understand her. As a woman, I totally understand her. And she's like, I just don't want to cry in front of you. And he says, oh, I don't want to cry. You're going to make me cry. With no fucking emotion. I really do believe he might be on the spectrum, but I don't know. Just seeing the similarities with him and like my brother. It's like, it takes a lot to emote the emotion, and like this isn't it. But she just doesn't want to get hurt by him anymore, and I'm just like, okay, so then the quickest way to solve that problem is to just not stay with him. But anyways, those are my thoughts and my feelings on that. But that's basically it. It was very quick with Annie and Kyle in this episode. I'm going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we will finish up with Alliya. Well, we'll do the other two couples, not just Alliya and Shawn, but we'll finish up with the other two couples. Have you ever wanted to guest on a podcast like this one that you're listening to right now? Well, you can. You can definitely do this by visiting a website called Podmatch, where you can sign up and be available for all different types of podcasts that you can guest on. Or you can even search for a podcast and say, I want to guest on your podcast. I think we'd be a good match. So if you want to do this, you can go to our unique link, which is joinpodmatch.com/reality, and you can sign up and do exactly that. And you can find us and you can guest on our podcast. So again, that unique link is www.joinpodmatch.com. That's joinpodmatch.com/reality, REALITEA, and you can be a guest on our podcast. And I'm back. So Alliya and Shawn. So Alliya is going to be meeting up with her friend Jackie. Alliya apparently is going to be turning 25 soon, this week. And Jackie's I think they met roughly around the same time that Shawn and Alliya actually started dating. So yeah. So I think they've been friends for some time. But this is the first time Jackie's actually seeing her as Alliya. So just like Shawn, this is her first time seeing. I mean, I know it's very different, but this is her first time seeing her. And Jackie confirms her pronouns to make sure that she is properly pronouncing her. And Alliya does confirm, yeah, she, her is what she prefer to go by. And that's actually really great of her to kind of be like, listen, I don't want to assume because you're transitioning to be female that I'm just going to assume that your pronoun is she, her. It could be they, them, not necessarily he, him, but it could potentially be they, them. So I did love that she confirmed her pronouns to make sure that she is going to do that correctly, not upset her in any way. Something Shawn did not do, at least when he got there. Something he never seemed to do. And if anything, he will mispronoun her, especially, and dead name her. And I thought this was really great that Jackie did that. So she does ask, like, how is Shawn handling the transition? Does he call you Alliya? And she says yes, but he's definitely struggling, kind of just goes through everything. Like, on one hand, he's buying me hair. On the other hand, he's saying that he likes the shy, timid, scared side of what Douglas was. And just like just like all of us and Alliya, Jackie kind of says, that's fucked up. Like, why your partner shouldn't want you to be scared. And I think Jackie also says, like, what I think he needs to remember is all of those attributes that he's describing about Douglas are all things that caused you to not want to be yourself, or where you were too scared to be yourself. But that doesn't mean that you weren't already Alliya. And what I also want to say here is, we'll talk about it in the next episode, but we kind of get confirmation of that, even though Alliya says, when she was Douglas, she was not portraying herself in this way. And we kind of find out, well, maybe not exactly. Maybe there was a little more to that. This person wanted to just come out and she wasn't able to. Or felt that she wasn't able to. So Jackie also says about the feelings that Shawn kind of mentioned about Alliya, that those are the type of feelings that can be manipulated. Like, Shawn can use those things to manipulate her, right? So that's also kind of very true. Makes it even feel worse somehow. And she says, maybe he's worried that you will be strong enough that you won't need him anymore. And I understand that, but on the one hand, it's like, but no one should ever need somebody. You should only want somebody. And if you need somebody and that person needs you to need them, that can become very toxic. So don't like that. And so basically Jackie asks, like, are you thinking about getting any surgeries? And she says, I do want to get which we've mentioned already before, she wants to get the fat out of her belly, put it to her butt so it could be more round. But in terms of any other surgeries, whether top surgery, bottom surgery, or as she's used the proper term, gender confirmation surgery, she's not sure if she wants to do that. Maybe at some point she will, but she doesn't think that's going to happen right now. And, maybe down the line she will do that. She doesn't know what she'll feel in 10 years from now. And, Jackie does ask, so how does Shawn know that you want to do this? And she says yes, but, he's not really for it, obviously. But she still says she will do it anyway. She doesn't need him. She will do it. She'll figure it out. And I love that. And yeah, and that's basically it. The only thing that then happens after is, which I actually really loved seeing, is actually, I didn't know, I don't know Alliya, and I didn't know Alliya when she was Douglas, but I still got very emotional kind of watching this myself, and you kind of see them at this bonfire, they're having fun, she's being herself, and she's having, she's happy. And I think Shawn seeing her in this environment around people who love and care for her, who have known her, some of them her whole life, basically, that they can all accept it and be happy for her and support her. And he's kind of maybe realizing, maybe it's time for me to, come to terms with this, accept it for what it is. Because if I can't, then, then this isn't going to go anywhere. And the other thing too that kind of happens is, which I thought was actually, this was sweet. Before I get to the last part of it, her oldest friend there, I can't remember his name now. Her oldest friend there mentioned that they would play games with each other, as you do. And they would play this little game called like Heroes. And, he kind of says like, we'll have like these different strengths. And like for him, like his strength might have been like, I don't know, flying or something as an example. Hers would always be light, be able to be bright. And I thought that was just so sweet because I'm not getting emotional. That was just the sweetest thing because it's like, she's always been that. It kind of just shows she's always been that. And it kind of makes me kind of just more angry to kind of hear Shawn say, well, like this about you or what you were. And it's like, but that's not who she was. This person that wanted to just have this strength of just being bright. And that's what she wanted. It's always what she wanted. And that's what she is now. And I thought that was really sweet. But then they basically, kind of do like, they have like a bonfire kind of going, a small bonfire kind of going, and, or just a regular old fire kind of going on the beach. And, she kind of reads this letter to herself. Or basically she says, see if I get to my notes here on that one. I think that's superhero shine, but yeah, same thing. Yeah. So she reads this letter, and basically in the letter, she kind of says, goodbye to the stigmas. And she kind of takes the parts of, Douglas was her foundation, to kind of now be who she needs to be. And then she says goodbye to Douglas. And she has like a picture of Douglas and she puts it in the fire and she gets very emotional and she's crying, and it's that release. And I love that she had that release for herself. And she's also thinking about the fact like this could potentially be a release for him to kind of also know that Douglas is now in the past. But I think Shawn needs to also go through something similar, maybe not exactly the same thing, but go through something similar to say goodbye to Douglas. Um, and I don't know what that is that's comfortable for both of them. Maybe he needs to go through something similar where he can just kind of say goodbye to Douglas as well. And because I think it's kind of good to have closure. In a sense, when you're dealing with someone who's transitioning, it's kind of like you're going through a death of the person who once was, but out of that comes this beautiful new thing. And I think he needs to kind of maybe have like some sort of things that symbolizes that, and he can maybe have some closure himself. But yeah, that's it for them. Let's move on to Alex and Adriano. Really just Alex in this case. And she's meeting up with Tiffany, and they're going to be going to the pottery. Yay! And while they're doing the pottery, I love Tiffany. While they're doing well, I love her some in this case anyways. When they're doing the pottery, Tiffany's like, so I'm doing the pottery. It's kind of forming something that looks, how should I say, familiar. Definitely looked familiar to me too. And she's like, I didn't know that pottery could be so freaky. What do you mean? Did no one watch Ghosts? It got real freaky between Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. Did we forget? You know? But anyways, Alice is getting her hair stuck in the pottery. Like or the clay. It's not going good. It's really not going good. And Tiffany's like, listen, this lady, it's failing. We're not doing good. We're failing here. And this woman here that's teaching us, like, I'm pretty sure she's trying to say with her eyes, get the fuck out because you guys suck. But she can't really tell us that. So, but it's not going good. But anyways, they're gonna start talking now, and they're like, oh well, that was freaky. And Tiffany's like, well, talking about freaks, how's that? Or Adriano. Sorry, I get their names mixed up because they're both A's. Yeah, how's Adriano? That's we're talking about freaks. And Alex is like, well, we got into the religion conversation, and he talked about biracial kids and all of that, and she tells Tiffany that how he told her to basically suck it up and talking about her experiences as a Black woman. And I think all of us can agree here. Tiffany's like, that's not how you handle yourself. You can't tell someone to just suck it up. I wish we could just ignore situations, especially of that kind. We can't. So that's not how that works. And he doesn't understand that because he's a white man. But Tiffany says it also shows how he will be as a husband, how he will be as a father. And I don't understand why you still want to be with him. She's like, I don't like him. Everything that I'm hearing, I don't like him. He wants to have threesomes. He's telling her to suck it up. He's telling her, whatever. Like, I don't like him. Alex thinks that, it could be love. Because Tiffany asks, like, do you think this is, like, true love? And she's like, I do think, that it is love. But, no, not lust. But Alex says, we are in the honeymoon stage. So with the honeymoon stage, you are in a lust. You don't even know if you're in love yet. Really, really and truly. Like something just has to happen when you just know, I can't live without this person, even if you are in that lust situation. But you're not there yet. You guys are still pretty new. Not to mention, you guys keep fucking breaking up. But anyways, we'll talk about that in another episode. And yeah, she's like, we're enjoying it. But are you though? Are you though? Tiffany says. Because everything you're telling me, number one, you don't want a threesome. You're miserable about the fact that he keeps asking you about it. You don't agree on the fact that both of you think very differently on religion and the fact that you want to raise your kids within the church. Like you don't agree on that, and that's becoming a bone of contention between the two of you. You can't agree on the fact that you're about to be raising biracial children and what that comes with. You guys can agree on anything. The main things that are important when maintaining a relationship and then a marriage. You guys don't agree on that shit. So how are you having a good time? Because his dick is good? That's not enough. Like, it's not enough. And she's like, do you feel like you have to keep trying? Yeah, that's what I wrote. Do you keep trying to make the relationship work? And he's like, yeah, she does, because she's getting older. She's 30 years old. She should have been married by now, having kids by now. By whose standards? And again, I'm coming from a place where it's like, I had those things in place, those deadlines in place where I wanted to be married, have kids, and have a job by the time you're 25, 26. You wanted to have, like, or at least start having kids by 25, 26. You had all of those things, like, you think, but you learn to adjust. Yes, I was married, but that failed. I have my job. I do have that. And yes, I don't have kids, but I learned to go with the fact that, okay, but I got life. I am happy and letting life, and those things are going to happen. So that doesn't mean, though, that I'm going to be in a relationship that isn't serving me besides all of that. I don't need a warm body to have kids. I'll do it myself if I have to. I don't need that. Maybe I'll use Kyle. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you don't need to have a boyfriend or have a stable, or quote unquote what you think is a stable relationship in order to have that. Because if it's not serving you, then you should not, and you should not want to bring kids into the situation. It's just not, it's not good. And Tiffany says, but if you keep wasting time with the wrong person, you're not leaving room for the right person to come in and do all of those things. 100% agree with her. She says you have plenty of time to make all of that happen with the right person. It doesn't have to be Adriano. It could be someone else. And I agree with her. But that is it for Love in Paradise, for that episode. I can't remember that episode number that was now. So like I said, again, we will have the most recent episode to you on Friday with said guest. So that will be coming your way then. But until then, that is it. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including, you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube, and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.